based on what we have been talking about a little bit from chapter 3, it is quite clear that one of the big point, or one of the most important thing that I have said is basically I hate reading. When it comes to learning, I do not enjoy reading. However, it is not to say that I do not know how to read. I do, but given the choice, it would be my very last choice in terms of learning things in life. Therefore, let's begin the book 1, Law of Salimi Chapter 4, which is titled Comics, Anime, Video Games and Movies. When the first time I meet my students in the first class of any subject that I teach, I normally do not teach anything which is related to the textbook or subject matter. I will talk about passion of knowledge and the philosophies of knowledge with students. I will try my very best to connect the two students via anything that I and the students may relate to. Most of the times, it is very easy to find similarities between me, the tutor or lecturer, and my students. It is very easy because I too am a student, and in my heart, I am always a small child at heart. I feel my body to be at 15 years old, and my mind is extremely curious. I am very similar to students. Hence, it is easy to find anything that we can relate to. I love comics, anime, or cartoon animation, video games, movies, or anything that consists of fun, exciting, and exhilarating elements to it. I love to have fun and learn at the same time. To me, learning is actually having fun through discovery of something new and exciting. I love to learn about anything and everything. I always told my students to develop the passion for learning knowledge. Do not learn for the sake of making more money or land you better jobs in life. Learn because it is fun to discover new things. It makes me appear to be childish, and I am truly proud of it. When I enter a room, I always look for something new that I have not discovered before. I'm looking for something that I haven't seen before. If I found it, I will pick it up, examine it, trying to discover how does it works and how it should be operated or used in life. I love to try understand how an apparatus works from the scientific perspective. How does machine works? How anything and everything does works. It is like a game or problem-solving puzzle. My life is an exciting fun bit for every single second of my life. Teaching to me is not working, but rather having fun. I just go to class, talk to students, ensure that they understand the things that they should understand, and have lots of fun doing it. I am not working. I'm having fun, sharing knowledge, and by the end of the month, a sum of money is deposited into my bank account. It is not working because I'm passionate about learning, teaching, and knowledge. I have never took any leave of absence because I do not need any vacation. Teaching and learning are fun, and thus, when there is a public holiday, I am sad. During my first class, I will try to spread the passion for knowledge to students. I will explain to them how to have fun in learning. Honestly, I don't care whether my students got A in my class. I am more concerned if my students learn something new and useful every day. I prefer to have students that loves knowledge and learning because it is fun. I had always told my students that I will not remember their name. I will remember their face, but most of the time, not their names. This is my shortcomings. I cannot remember abstract facts such as the name of other individuals. I can only remember names of other people only if the person has spent a long time with me and did something that was emotionally charged in order for me to activate my selective memory. I normally did not explain the reasoning to the students or other people, most of the time because it tends to be too complicated. My memory is very good when it comes to graphics and visual events. In most cases, when I remembered something that I deemed as important and emotionally charged, the memory might last for a long time, for a very long time, possibly throughout my lifetime. For example, I remembered the questions that my lecturer asked me when I was 17 years old of age. Even though at that time I do not understand the question very well, after 16 years later, the answer for that question becomes much more clearer and apparent to me. When I talked to other people, I discovered that this was not considered as normal. I guess it made me weird and odd for having such ability. What is the question? I will explore the question in the later chapter. My ability to remember graphics and visual nature of events requires me to learn knowledge through any mediums using visuals. Obviously, I can read book, but I hate reading, and the rate of effectiveness is not as high as using visually supported medium. So, instead of spending hours reading books, I spend thousands of hours reading comics, which contain visual images that my memory can remember very effectively. I play video games, I watch anime and movies. These are ways for me to learn. In addition, it is extremely fun too. Reading comics allow me to improve my English and imagination. Video games provide a great story, high level of English language mastery, and problem solving. Watching anime and movies allow me to see through the story plot, the hidden cues, and discover what is considered as fun and what is not. I have learned a lot from this medium. However, from the eyes of others, I was perceived as wasting my time and my life away. Maybe I am an autistic individual who required visual assistance for learning. There was a research conducted on reading and its effect on the brain development. The research concluded that a brain might expand up to 3% every time a person reads a book and putting him or herself into the story, which is to say a visualization process. This very same concept can be applied when a person reads comic books, playing video games, watch animes and movies. Even if the result has not been tested upon comic, video games, animes and movies, I reckon that it can improve the brain's power. How much? I am not sure, but I do believe that the effect is there. It is also supported when the same test is conducted. When a person learns how to juggle, the brain also expands. I believe that we can conclude that brain gets better and sharper when we learn new things in our life. I don't care by how much, but as long as our brain improves, the person shall benefit from it. How much improvement do you think can come when you spend countless hours of reading comics, playing video games, watching animes and movies during your upbringing? To me, how much the brain expands is not important. What matters is how efficient and how sharp the brain works. A sharper brain might be able to see things that others cannot. It allows the person to be the best possible in his or her life. It creates a wholesome individual with 360 degrees of perception. It lets the person to analyze and solve problems that is considered impossible by the rest. It opens new doors of possibilities in life. Thus, life becomes fun, exciting, and awesome. Life does not suck. In fact, every person can improve their brain's power at any age of their life because it is never too late to learn something new. Essentially, the concept of improving and learning from cradle to grave is exactly in line with the teachings of Islam, which highly encourages all human beings to learn knowledge as much as they possibly can. I understand that not everybody is born with the same level of values or attributes, but learning knowledge is considered as compulsory from the perspective of Islam.
Any field, whether it be science, arts, music, whatever, to come up with an idea.
Do not narrow your mind by thinking that learning is simply when you attend classes at school or university. Learning is possible for everyone, anytime, about anything, and using any means. To me, there is no such thing as taboo in learning because the usefulness of knowledge depends on the person's learning it. For example, I had always told my students that even learning how to break into a house or knowledge to perform burglary was important. It is only sinful when a person uses such knowledge to perform crimes or harm others. Instead, knowledge of burglary and breaking into a house can be used in a useful manner, such as when you have lost your own keys to your house and unable to enter into your home. The knowledge of breaking into your house can be extremely helpful. If you work in the police department, knowledge of burglary helps you to analyze crimes better, solve a difficult or complex criminal acts, or even able to understand how the mind of a criminal thinks. In fact, you might also be able to perform prevention actions with the knowledge of burglary. It falls within the science of criminology. In my eyes, every knowledge can be used for good deeds or bad action, depending on the individual possessing such knowledge. Therefore, it is better to have more knowledge rather than having less or none at all. Many scholars might not agree with me, but I believe strongly that learning any knowledge can be beneficial to anyone as long as the person is behaving within the principle of Islam as a way of life and in accordance to the teaching of Islam. A good Muslim will always behave in accordance to the teachings of Islam regardless of the type of knowledge that he or she learns. In my experience, learning is continuous throughout the life of an individual. I always learn about new things that when I am outside of classes by simply observing others. I reckon that learning from observation has been done since the earliest scholars have ever lived on the face of this earth. Many scholars, be it as scientists, philosophers, astronomers, sociologists, historians, and virtually every other types of scholars have learned and developed knowledge by observing and analyzing the events that occurred in their surroundings. It saddens me when in this modern age today that most people believes that learning only happens in a classroom by a teacher spoon-feeding knowledge into the mind of students. Sadly, this concept is not learning in its most philosophical sense where a new knowledge is being developed, but rather students memorizing a rigid form of data that is believed to be as an absolute knowledge, which would never changes. Such notion inhibits the mind of students from exploring knowledge with excitement and fun elements. Instead, memorizing factual data becomes a tedious chore. It might explain as to why most of the students today hates going to school. It explains why learning at school becomes boring and considered as not being fun. Alas, Such very notion is being implemented in the format of education in our kindergartens, schools, and universities level of learning. It could contribute towards creating students that hate learning and having a narrow mind and way of thinking. It abstains students from being imaginative and creative in life. It kills fun and excitement of learning knowledge. Hence, passion for learning and knowledge becomes extinct from the heart of students, teachers, and every members of society. As a result, most individuals that went to school believes that learning is useless and boring. Knowledge is considered dull and lame. Thus, to such individuals, life sucks. How did I arrive at such conclusion? I think this is part of my ability, which is the ability to see things and specific events that seems unrelated from broad perspective of a bird's eye view of life, or the ability to see the big picture. I believe that passion for learning and knowledge should be cultivated in the heart of all students and members of society. This is especially significant in the heart of teachers, lecturers, tutors, educators, and scholars. The reason behind this is because a lecturer who doesn't love knowledge, learning, and teaching would not cultivate the passion for knowledge amongst students. Instead, such educators might even kill the passion for knowledge among students that they are teaching. I can attest to this statement from my actual life experience, which I will explore in the next chapter of this true story. I guess that ends the chapter for chapter 4. Thank you for listening and hope to hear you again in the next part of this book. Thank you very much for listening and hope to see you again in the next video.